This video is brought to you by MOFT. In this video, I'm going to talk about my experience using the iPhone 14 for 1 year, and just as, if not more importantly, also talk about why today in 2024, I do not recommend you buy this phone. Let me explain. Now first, I want to preface this by saying that the iPhone 14 on its own is a good phone, and if you already have one, you should not regret your purchase, not at all. However, this video is for those looking to buy today in 2024. Say if you're currently on an iPhone 8, 10, or 11 searching for your next upgrade. As if we compare the iPhone 14 to other models like the iPhone 13 and the iPhone 15, the iPhone 14 becomes a much tougher sell. Trust me, whether you're looking to get the best value for your money or the best range of features, this video is going to help you make the right purchase decision. So how is my iPhone 14 held up after a year of use? Well, it definitely does show some signs of wear. I have quite a lot of scratches on the back as well as on the display. And then looking at the frame specifically, there are a few small chips that you can see going around, and this is from an unfortunate drop. But because I have the darker midnight color, these will show extra apparent compared to, say, the lighter colors. All that said though, from a functionality perspective, the iPhone 14 has held up well as it still fully works, and most of the wear that I described today can be mitigated with a good screen protector as well as a case. Now, looking at the design of the iPhone 14, it is practically identical to the iPhone 13, and you'll see that as we go throughout this video, the iPhone 13 and the 14 really have a lot in common. And I would say this squared-off design looks quite good, but is also not the most comfortable to use in the hand. And here I have found the newer, more rounded frame of the iPhone 15 to be much nicer to hold. And side by side, comparing the 15 to the 14, as well as the 13 for that matter, you do really feel this difference. I would say, looking specifically at the design, you don't really lose anything for going for the more affordable iPhone 13 instead of the iPhone 14, since it has practically the same design. However, for a more ergonomic feel, I do think for some it may be worth jumping up to the 15. Looking specifically at the display, in terms of durability, I was really glad to see that I have no signs of burn-in on my iPhone 14, but to be fair, this is also expected after just 1 year, especially since I do use auto brightness as well as a fast auto lock timer. By the way, these are two great ways to mitigate and limit chances of burn-in on your phone. This is regardless of which phone you use. But in terms of the display itself, the iPhone 14, like the 13, like the 15, does still have a 60 Hz display. Now, if you are used to this won't be an issue, but it is just not as smooth as the 120 Hz refresh rate that you will find, for example, on the iPhone 14 Pro. By the way, I have done a comparison between the iPhone 15 and the 14 Pro, which I'll be sure to leave linked down in the description. In terms of brightness, the iPhone 14 goes up to 1200 nits, just like the iPhone 13, which is bright enough, but in the sun, the extra bright 2000 nit display of the iPhone 15 will make a noticeable difference. Speaking of the iPhone 15, the 15 also has a dynamic island, which is a handy way to quickly see app info and to cycle between apps. And having this on the iPhone 15 makes the phone look and feel more modern, as from the front, it looks right at home next to, say, the iPhone 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max, unlike the 14 and 13, which both use the older, more traditional notch. So in terms of the display, much like the design, there really is virtually no difference between the iPhone 13 and the iPhone 14. However, the iPhone 15 does add the dynamic island and extra brightness, which together does add up to a pretty substantial upgrade. Now let's talk about the cameras. Now, I've taken, I would say, hundreds of photos on my iPhone 14, and even today, it still delivers great photos and videos. Compared to the iPhone 13, the iPhone 14 brings pretty big upgrades with much improved low light. You also get better post-image processing, which results in better and more accurate colors. And the iPhone 14 also brought action mode in video, which creates almost gimbal-like smooth video right on your phone. So compared to the 13, the 14 here really does show some major improvements. But so does the iPhone 15. Compared to the iPhone 14, the iPhone 15 introduces a 48 megapixel main sensor, which is a huge jump up compared to the 12 megapixel sensor of the 14, and this really translates to better detail and sharpness in your photos and even better dynamic range. And crucially for me, this larger sensor also enables the 2x focal length, and this essentially creates a telephoto lens without actually adding a third lens like you'll find on the Pro iPhones. Now this 2x focal length is ideal for portrait photos as it really gives that professional camera look to your photos. This is a focal length I really enjoy using. So unlike some of the previous areas that we looked at, like design and display, camera is really an area where each phone stands apart, where the iPhone 13, the 14, and the 15 each bring significant upgrades over the last. And this means that if camera is your priority, the iPhone 13 will most show its age here, where the iPhone 14 does bring significant upgrades. But then again though, if your budget allows, the iPhone 15 once again brings even bigger upgrades over the 14. Now, before we talk about battery, performance, longevity, and most importantly, I want to do a price comparison. I want to show you these awesome accessories from MOFT. Now, these add protection, they also add power, as well as a stand and wallet to your iPhone. So this starts with the Snap phone case, which has a surface hardness of 2H to protect from scratches. And I've used this case for many months and it still looks just like new. And it also offers up to 5 feet of drop protection and has raised edges going around the display, as well as the camera for extra surface protection. Not only is the Snap case MagSafe compatible, it also offers up to double the magnetic strength, and this lets you add the stand power set. Now this is really cool. It consists of 2 parts. So you can see first we have the battery pack and then also the wallet and stand. And since it uses this modular design, you can easily customize your setup depending on what you're looking for that specific day. For example, on most days, I will use the Snap Stand wallet, and this is made of a durable vegan leather, and it also holds up to 3 cards. I usually have just 1 or 2, and then in the hand, the stand can also act as a grip, which is really great. But of course, my favorite feature is that, well, it is also a stand. So you can set it up both in portrait mode, which is great for, say, while working at your desk to keep an eye on notifications, but you can also then rotate your phone and have it in landscape mode, which is just perfect for watching videos on the go. Speaking of on the go, this is where the 3400 milliamp hour Snap battery pack comes in. So to charge your phone, simply place it on top. And of course, because it is wireless, you don't have to worry about any cables and it just automatically starts charging. And thanks to having a super slim profile, you can also charge it while using the phone in your hand or say while having it in your pocket. Together, these accessories add so much functionality to your iPhone, and to learn more about the Snap phone case and the Snap Stand power set from MOFT, be sure to head to the links in the description and use code Dion10 for 10% off your order. Alright, so what has the battery life been like? Well, for me, the iPhone 14 has delivered really consistent battery life, which is always a plus, and still shows 100% battery health. Now, I would say I get around 6 to 7 hours of screen on time, which is pretty much the same as on the iPhone 13, however, is just under the iPhone 15, which gets me slightly better, I would say 7 to 8 hours of screen on time. In other words, I end the day with the iPhone 14 with around 20% remaining, just like the iPhone 13, where on the iPhone 15, I would typically end with around 35% remaining. Now, this is not a major difference, but it's still worth mentioning. Also, the iPhone 15 now uses USB-C compared to Lightning on the iPhone 14 and the iPhone 13. And the use of USB-C really means you can use one cable to charge all of your tech, and also goes a long way to future-proofing the phone. In terms of charging, the 13, 14, as well as the 15 all charge at 20 watts, which I would say is just about average, but all do have MagSafe, and this is something I love using, whether it be to add wallets, battery packs, or simply better wireless charging. Let's talk about performance. Now, the iPhone 14 is powered by Apple's A15 Bionic chip, and this is actually the same chip as from the iPhone 13, and this in part, I think, also explains the very similar battery life. Now, in terms of performance, the iPhone 14 still feels snappy and fast. It never gets choppy or laggy, and generally keeps up very well during normal day-to-day productivity. However, when we dive into heavier apps like, say, photo editing or games, loading times or rendering times will be noticeably faster on the iPhone 15, which is powered by Apple's newer A16 Bionic chip. This newer processor on the iPhone 15 also means you get better longevity, where I would expect another 6 years of software support, where by comparison on the iPhone 14 and the iPhone 13, since they use the same chip, I would expect another 4 years of software support. So this is a pretty substantial difference and is something I would factor in when we look at the prices, which we'll look at in a sec. But in terms of day-to-day performance and longevity, choosing between the 13 and the 14 won't matter much, again, since they have the same processor, but the iPhone 15 will be a substantial upgrade, offering roughly 2 more years of software support, as well as even better performance today. And this brings us to price. Let's compare. So the iPhone 14 can be bought from Apple for $699, the iPhone 15 for $799, and the iPhone 13 for $599, all with 128 gigabytes purchased directly from Apple. And this is where the iPhone 14 sits in an awkward middle ground. Where if you're looking for the best value iPhone, I would choose to go for the iPhone 13 instead. At $100 compared to the iPhone 14, the iPhone 13 shares the exact same design, the same display, the same battery life, and the same performance. The only noteworthy difference between the 13 and the 14 are the camera improvements that the 14 brings, as well as the additional emergency and SOS features. But as you can see, the real world differences between the 13 and the 14 really are quite small. And for the attractive price of $599, the iPhone 13 is a really good value buy. Then, on the other end of the spectrum, for $100 more compared to the iPhone 14, the iPhone 15 really brings a lot, bringing a much better design, better display with dynamic island, big camera upgrades with a 48 megapixel sensor, 2x telephoto, better battery life, and longer software support, as well as faster performance and USB-C. And all of this for just $100 more compared to the iPhone 14. And this is why I think if your budget allows, the iPhone 15 really is the clear better choice from a features and a long-term perspective. So to recap, if you are looking for the best value, I would say go for the iPhone 13. And if you are looking for the most features and what is, in my opinion, the best iPhone in years, I think it is worth jumping up to the iPhone 15. And this leaves the iPhone 14 in a place where it's not the best value and doesn't offer enough in terms of the extra features to justify the jump in price. And this is why I ultimately do not recommend you buy this phone today in 2024. Let me know if you have any questions. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Which phone would you choose? Would you go for the 13, the 14, or would you go for the iPhone 15? As always, I will leave all the purchase links down in the description. And if you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend checking out my full iPhone 15 review, as well as my iPhone first 10 things to do video to help you get the most out of the features, battery life, as well as the performance of your phone. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.